Welcome to the podcast of the College of Music and Dramatic Arts at Louisiana State University. Here's your host, Dean Laurence Kaptain.
We're here today with Dr. James Bio of our Music Education Division here at the Louisiana State University School of Music. It's part of the College of Music and Dramatic Arts. Good afternoon, Dr. Bio.
Dr. Kaptain, hello.
Thanks so much for joining us today. As you know, this is a series of podcasts that we're doing so people can meet the faculty and some of the students and staff at our Performing Arts Division here at LSU. I thought maybe today we could talk a little bit about some publications you've been doing, and I've heard you've put your toe in the water on distance learning.
That's right. I'll start with the distance learning since that's kind of hot on my mind. With the help of Joey Watson, we have created a link between LSU School of Music and Sherwood Middle School. Andy Pizzo is the band director there, and he has a middle school band that with the technology, we're able to peer in on them while he is rehearsing. And right now we're in a situation with my woodwind techniques course where once a week we link up with Andy's classroom, and we're doing a lot of observation right now. This is a tremendous pedagogical tool from my standpoint. We just hope that we can be as much benefit to Andy and his students as he and his students are to us. And what I mean by that is the college students who are pre-service music teachers are in classes here, as they are all across the country, trying to figure out how to go about being an effective music teacher themselves. And what makes that difficult in the college environment is that there is information to be learned, there's knowledge to be gained, but it's very difficult to situate that knowledge and that information in a real context. And what the distance connection allows us to do is to make some of those contextual relationships real for our students, so they can actually start to think through how they would use information they gain in the college class in a real environment when you're dealing with young people who are moving and they have mouths, so they speak, and they all come in different shapes and sizes and with different levels of ability. So it's been great.
So distance learning, this middle school, they have a fixed camera set up somehow so you can see what they're doing, and then how do they know what you're doing?
Well, that's the point. It's a two-way street. They have a fixed camera right now. Ultimately, we're going to try to get more than one camera in the room. But this is as good, I think, as it gets in terms of one camera situation. With Joey in my classroom, Joey Watson, he can operate the camera on the other end, and so he can zoom in on individual students. And the other day, for example, we looked at a clarinet reed that was attached to a mouthpiece, and we saw it close enough that we could see a chip in the reed. So the fidelity is great. And we can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can swivel the camera. And on Andy Pizzo's end, he can do the same thing with us. So we actually, as a class where my students learn how to play what we call the secondary instruments, we have performed for his students. I have worked with some of his students individually for short bits of time, and of course, we've peered in on them plenty, and we've gotten a lot out of that. Actually, one of the things I like is we have the ability to watch, observe, and then I can press a button and such that it's quiet in his room. In other words, they're not able to hear. Let's just cover up my microphone. They're not able to hear what I'm saying, but at this point I can take 5 minutes and break from our observation task, and I can get involved with a conversation with my own students to see what it is they're seeing and to try to help us all make some sense out of that.
Well, that sounds very interesting, and it also sounds to me like you're addressing sustainability. I imagine you're saving some gas and student welfare. Instead of driving around Baton Rouge, the students are able to interact with the classes it sounds like field work, but I guess we'd call it virtual work now.
Absolutely. It is field work and it is virtual. I want to say right now it's tremendously more efficient, because what we did in the past we knew the value of our students getting out into the real venue and trying to learn from that. But what they would do is they would have to drive from here to that site. They would scatter across the community. They'd go to various places where we could get them into those schools. Not everybody can go to one spot. And they'd spend the time there, and then they would come back and have to find a place to park. And now we can do that, all of us together, peering in on the same situation. And I am there too to see what it is they're seeing and to hear what it is they're hearing. And this helps me greatly to make sense of that whole observation field experience situation too.
One thing that, at first to me this sounds a little off-putting because you've got these college students from LSU here on one side and then these middle school students on the other. However, I think you said this is a methods class, so I'm guessing that the LSU students are playing instruments other than their own instruments.
That's true.
So I'm curious, have the middle school students, has that put them a little more at ease that there are amateur clarinet and amateur oboe players on the LSU end that are just starting out like they are?
Interesting question. I think what it does for them is it probably answers some questions that they never had, like what goes into this process of creating a professional music teacher. One of the things being that, instrumentally, we've got to get our own students, college students, able to play and teach at some level the various instruments. Actually, they play pretty well at the stage where they are right now. So when we model for them, I'd like to think we provide a pretty nice model, even though these are not the primary instruments of these students.
Great. Well,
I interrupt you. There was one the first question we got from one of the students out there. This was a 7th grade trombone player, and he wanted to know. He had heard that students in the marching band at LSU get paid to be in the marching band, and so he wanted to know if that was true, and how much they got paid. So that was interesting for my students to try to answer because of course they do get paid, but if you take a look at that as an hourly wage, they get paid very little.
Yeah, 50 cents.
Right. About, yeah.
Especially the ones that go on the trips every weekend to away games.
There you go.
Just, I guess it's a good time to get homework done.
Right.
One thing I'm very curious about, because I know you are very much a philosopher of music education and aesthetics and creativity. This entrance into distance learning now, are things much different now than you thought they would be, say, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, as far as instrumental music education? I know one thing, my crystal ball was all wrong because when I was a college student in the 70s, marching band membership was declining and it was very much against the culture. It seemed, I kind of pictured that, well, gee, in 30 years there won't be any marching bands. Well, lo and behold, there's more, they're bigger, they're better supported. Uh-huh. In the field of music education, instrumental, are things going a different path than you thought they might?
Well, I don't know if they're going a different path than I thought they might. I think I know the path they're going, and that seems to be a view of music as bigger than just the band and the orchestra and the choir. When you look at how people make music out of the school environment, they do it in many different ways that don't have to involve playing in a large concert band or an orchestra or a choir. And so one of the things we're trying to do with our students at LSU is to get them thinking about not just music as it is construed within a school, but how it happens to people outside of school, all the way to the garage band level, and to ask the question ourselves as professors and get our students to think about how could we teach music in the schools in such a way that it feeds into the way that young people are likely to use music once they are out of school. And we're not thinking so much in terms of those people becoming music majors, but just consumers down the road who are going to have children. And we'd love, for example, to have parents of children who sing the Star Spangled Banner proudly while holding their child's hand. Those are the ways that music gets made outside of school, and that larger view, bigger than just standing on a podium, is what we're kind of interested in getting young people to think about.
Great. Well, we're running out of time today, but I want to invite you back to hear about a book that you co-authored on. Is it teaching woodwinds through expression, or is it a whole band program?
We call it a beginning band method book, but we call it a radical approach to the beginning band, and so that's what we would be talking about, is the radicalness of it.
Well, I want to make another appointment because that sounds real interesting. I guess you and I both are probably of the same mind that it shouldn't be radical to teach
True.
music through expression, but
Right.
That's what we've come to, and I'm so glad we had a chance to talk today. You're one of the pioneers in a lot of ways of doing innovative things in music education, and thanks much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. Please join us for another episode of our podcasts from the College of Music and Dramatic Arts at Louisiana State University. I'm Dean Laurence Kaptain, talking today with James Bio of our music education faculty in our School of Music.